And as promised, Lindie Malan in the studio, Business Lunch with Lindie. Lindie, good afternoon. Welcome once again.
Good afternoon, Christy. Lekker to be here.
Nat en koud.
Nat en koud, maar altyd met 'n warm hart, né?
Daar praat jy nou. En warm besigheidsidees.
Warm besigheidsidees.
But you've got a guest today as well.
I do. Oh my word. Julia Evans, General Manager of Animal Welfare in the Helderberg. Welcome, Julia.
Thank you.
So lovely to chat to you. So every now and again we like to mix up, like the ernstige besigheid, but this is also for me something very serious. It's taking care of animals.
Yeah.
Animals being such a big part of our lives. So Julia, General Manager, we'll get into what you do now, but just take us back 25 years ago. How did it all happen, and where did you get involved with animal welfare?
Well, let me think. I was married in those days. Let me just add, I'm very happily divorced.
Okay. Well, we all sometimes get to change our status, right?
Join the club.
Okay.
All right. So I was married in those days, and I hadn't had children yet. We only had children later on in the marriage. And I suffered from panic disorder and depression. And I was working for my husband at the time as a bookkeeper, and I saw an ad in the Eikersstadnuus,
okay,
which said that the Stellenbosch Animal Welfare needed committee members. So I phoned, and I was invited to the first meeting. And needless to say, the rest is really history. 3 months later, I'd taken over the welfare. I was there for 11 years.
And that's with Stellenbosch Animal Welfare?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I was very fortunate to be offered a position out this side at the Helderberg Animal Welfare, and snapped up the opportunity of something new, just broaden your horizons. But the main thing was getting involved with the welfare was to get beyond my own self-pitying mode and do something that was more meaningful. Yeah.
Okay. So was that advice that were given to you at the time, or was that just like you sat one day and decided, look, I need to now have a world outside my own world sort of thing?
I'm not actually, no, it wasn't advice given to me. It was merely, in those days we didn't have Facebook and that kind of thing. So we relied very heavily on our Eikersstadnuus and our district mail. And I just happened to open the newspaper, and there it was. And I've grown up with animals all my life.
Okay.
And it just, I discussed it with my husband, and I said, maybe this is something I should do. Get me out, get me about, because I also at a stage suffered from agoraphobia. So going beyond my house was a very difficult thing for me to do. And this was a way of getting out there and then doing something meaningful, which would help me get the courage to leave the house. Yeah.
And there's the word, the courage.
Yeah.
And how amazing is that, Julia? Really, I'm sitting here listening to you and think, how often do we get caught up in our own life, challenges, fears, and we desperately need the courage to break out of that that holds us back. And here you are 25 years later. How amazing. Looking back, how does that make you feel?
I'm very proud of the achievements that I've managed to accomplish over the years, but I can tell you that I did not achieve anything on my own. Everything has been achieved with the help of friends, colleagues, volunteers, support of the public. Obviously, with the whole mental issues, counseling, anti-mad medication, as I call it. I go off to the pharmacy and I say, I'm here for a repeat of my anti-mads.
But, also having a sense of humor as well.
Yes.
I definitely pick up on that as well.
Yeah. If you don't have humor, you have nothing.
Yeah. But, I think you've said it, the fact that we need people around us, and in this case, animal welfare, heavily reliable on volunteers and the public that gets involved. Right. So let's talk a little bit about the welfare. Now looking back, I do know that you moved. When did you say you moved to the Helderberg as general manager?
Oh, when I got a year after my divorce. Now, Lynn, you see,
Okay.
It was 2009,
9-ish,
2010.
yeah. So quite a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
So of course the welfare has moved premises. I know you guys are in Gordons Bay,
Yes.
close to the traffic center, right?
That's right,
So
Mansfield.
what has been some of the changes that you guys made? And, when I get there, what will I see? So how would it look like? What will I see?
It's not what you're going to see, it's what you're going to hear. Bring earmuffs. A lot of barking.
Of course.
No, what you will see, I think, if your eyes are open and your heart is open, you're going to see compassion. You're going to see a lot of sad cases, and you're going to see some happy things. It's all about how your perception of what you want to see and why you're visiting.
Okay. So is the center open for visitors? I mean, do you guys allow that? Are they visiting hours? I mean, what is the policy around managing hordes and public and people knocking on the door?
Well, I know the majority of the animal welfares and SPCAs, or the sort of organizations, have very strict times, but we don't. My policy from the moment I started there was, if we are on site, the doors should be open.
Okay.
Why turn away an adoption because the doors aren't open? However, that has changed a little bit over the years because we've become very busy and rather big. So we do have visiting hours. The dogs are between 9 and 3. The cats are between 12 and 3. The reason that we changed that is because we've grown to an extent that we have a hospital and a veterinary center.
Okay, fantastic. So there's definitely visiting hours, but the policy is while there's someone there, they will open the door, right?
Yeah.
So, Chrissy, when we get back, I still want to ask a lot more questions, but how inspiring that there's this well-organized machine under the hands of Julia looking after the animals. It's really amazing to think of that. So we'll be back just now.
Absolutely. Business Lunch with Lindie back after this. We're busy with our business lunch with Lindie Malan, and she has Julia Evans, Animal Welfare General Manager, Helderberg, in the studio. And you have lots more questions to ask.
I do. I want to get back to the visiting hours because we briefly touched on that. So I heard you saying, Julia, cats visiting hours from 12 to 3, right?
That's
and
correct.
Dogs from 9 to 3. What would be the reason? Is there some reason behind this? I think we just need to explain that.
All right, yes. The reason behind that is that because we have grown, we now have the hospital division.
Okay.
And we have over 200 animals on site. And those animals need to be checked out every morning. Obviously, the hospital patients must be dealt with by the staff. We need to get the feeding out, and we need to start cleaning. So that is really the reason behind not being open all day. But we are open on Christmas and New Year and public holidays. So there's no day that we are closed, as long as one can stick to those hours.
Yeah, no, I'm sure when there's an emergency, help is at hand, right?
Oh, yes.
You briefly touched on it, and I want to emphasize the fact that you've got 13 full-time staff and then 11 helpers or general helpers, right?
What? 13 full-time? 28 full-time.
Oh, it's 28. That's even more. And between and amongst that, a full-time veterinarian.
A full-time veterinarian.
And veterinarian nurse. And all sorts of staff.
And 2 AWAs, animal welfare assistants.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you mentioned that you've got this clinic. So just tell me a little bit more about the vet clinic and for who do you cater for?
All right. We do cater for pet owners who are less affluent and who cannot afford private veterinary. So the type of cases that we see, well, let me not go into that. That can be quite a horror story. But on general, we are there to help those animals that can't get to a private vet because they don't have the fees. So we will assist. So it's usually sterilization, obviously, is our major concern in bringing the animal population down. Not that we're winning, but we're trying. And then the other cases are stabbings, animals been hit by motor vehicles with broken
so
limbs,
sad,
and
right,
and
yeah.
a couple shootings, and so.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so that's where you guys have got the big wings directly from God, dealing with animals in despair, right?
Yes. Yes.
So, Julia, I've got to ask. You guys are obviously pro-life, which I would accept and agree with. But then, do you ever get to turn animals away? I mean, we've got to ask this because you've certainly just got so much capacity, right?
This is a very, very difficult question and a very sensitive question. I think all animal welfares are pro-life because none of us would be involved in it if it wasn't for wanting to improve the lives of the animals.
Of course.
But where we differ perhaps is that we are also quality of life. So we don't believe in keeping an animal caged indefinitely until it gets a home. We won't keep an animal for 10 years in a cage. We will also not keep an animal that is struggling mentally and physically to cope. Also, because we are open door, we don't turn animals away. So we get animals in from all over the country, really, because a lot of the pro-life, but if I may use the word, and it's not a nice terminology, but it explains it more easily, the no-kill facilities. When they are full, they are full. And they won't take in animals. Those animals then get brought to us.
Okay.
Which means that we must now make space. So we've got to do the dirty deeds in order to assist that animal. So that's very briefly touching on it.
Are there also fostering programs? Because I know I've got a friend that loves pugs, and pugs apparently has got a well-organized society where you can actually foster a pug. So do you have those type of temporary programs available as well?
We do have a very small fostering system, but because we are very fortunate, very blessed to have a facility, which means that animals can be viewed daily. You know, people walk the facility, so they are more open to being adopted or more easily adopted that way. However, if we have puppies that come in that are too young, or doggies that come in that are decrepit but awesome, you can see they deserve
just
something.
Need some love, and
then we get fosters to take them in until such time they can be adopted.
Okay, awesome. So, of course, I'd like to ask you, there must be some process around adopting a pet from you guys. You know, and I mean, does it ever feel like you letting go of a child? Okay, let me ask you that. Do you bond with the animals, or do you keep a professional distance? Is that even possible?
It's not possible.
I'm looking at your face and I go, stupid question.
You know, we want to be professional and look professional, but you can't be. It's a very emotional job. So the emotions sort of range. But when it comes to letting go, when they get homes, sometimes the staff and the volunteers who have worked with them burst into tears, but it's tears of joy.
Okay, it's like off they go, and they're being loved. They're getting a great home.
Tears of joy.
Oh, okay. Well, so maybe you guys need more support than the animals at times. I'm just thinking, okay, what else can we do to support you? You know, so we'll get back to you. Christy, when we come back, Julia, I'd like to know a little bit more about the adoption process because I'm sure there's some policies in place. So, we'll be back straight after this.
Absolutely. Yes, we're busy with Business Lunch with Lindie Malan, and she's speaking to Julia Evans, the Animal Welfare General Manager in the Helderberg. Lindie, your last session of a couple of minutes.
So, Julia, I assumed it was only cats and dogs, but what other type of animals do you guys accept?
It's we get calls about all kinds of animals. We get calls about reptiles. We get calls about cattle, the goats, horses, and so forth. We go out and we assess the situation. If the animal is in dire need, we will phone the appropriate rescue to deal with it. Sometimes these animals get brought to our doors. So then if it's a snake, we contact nature for release.
And you mentioned birds as well.
Birds,
right?
we get a lot of birds. We get a lot of birds, but mostly the common, you know, your little morsies and doves and things. There we have somebody who takes them actually on for us until they're ready for release. And the more exotics, obviously, we send out to the appropriate rescues for them.
Okay. I'd like to ask about community involvement. So, do you guys have the centre have programs like school visits? I mean, any activities in that sphere?
We don't actually set up our own programs, but we have schools who phone wanting to bring groups or whatever the case. We open arms, bring them in, bring them on, let them take an animal for a walk. And then we have the elderly also from certain homes visit us.
Lovely.
Just have a walk through and cuddle an animal and move on.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's where the beauty is. Animals have got open hearts and, they share love. So
Absolutely.
anyone in need of that. You also mentioned that you're open to be a speaker at events in schools. Does that happen often as well?
Quite often, yes.
Oh, lovely.
Yes, it happens pretty regularly.
So, Julia, if I were to adopt a cat or dog, what is the process?
All right. We obviously have an adoption fee. That includes all vaccinations, microchip, sterilization, tick and flea, and so forth and so on. In the dog's scenario, we do a pre-home check. Our main concern is that the animal is going to be safe in the environment. And it's going to be part of a family, and it's going to be a loved pet and not a guard dog. So we look for things like, swimming pool, danger. Yeah. Open swimming pools if it's a puppy and that kind of thing. So, that's basically the adoption process. The pre-home check, cough up your money, and we do the rest.
Okay, well, there we go. I want to ask you, what would be an absolute fantastic day in your life at the centre? How would that look like?
A day of happiness by not seeing broken animals come in the door and by not having to practice euthanasia. That would be a beautiful day.
Okay. Have you ever had some record number of adoptions in a day where you guys couldn't help but popping champagne?
Oh, yes. I can't tell you when. It hasn't happened for a while. But if we look at our stats over, for example, I do stats every 2 weeks, and then we'll see, oh, my hat, there's been 50 dogs adopted in 2 weeks.
Wow. That's a lot.
And cats as well. But bearing in mind, we take in many more than that.
Many more than that.
But just to see those figures in front of you, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I think that's where the significance from what you guys are doing then comes home, and you get to sit and say, but we do play an important part in society, right?
I do believe that we make a difference, and a good and vast difference.
I do know that you guys also have a rescue vehicle, and there's also programs going into less affluent areas. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, we have 2 inspectors on duty, but we have 3 buckies. Those run for complaints and strays and whatever the case. But our mobile vehicle goes into the location areas and the less affluent areas. She runs daily, old Blookies. She's ancient.
Is that the car?
That's the mobile vehicle. It's like a little trokkie. It's a trokkie.
I thought it's the driver.
I was going to
tell you. And Blookies is mostly driven by women, and sometimes you've got to literally put your foot out the door to use your brakes.
Oh my goodness! So any good mechanics out there? I hope you guys are listening. We do help your service.
Blookies is well in her 20s with us. Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, so she goes in, and it's vaccinations, deworming, basic primary health care.
So it's almost like a clinic on wheels?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's amazing.
That's what she does.
Oh, really? So you don't get funded, but you are 100% dependent on donations
and fundraising. Yes, we do. Not to say we don't get funded. We do get grant and aids from time to time. But when we do, that money must be spent for that specific project that we've asked for.
Okay. Julia, I'm just sitting here thinking, Christy, don't you just love people like Julia and the volunteers out there? It's so amazing to know of you guys. And you know what? I'm just thinking that if ever I get bored again on a Saturday, I'm going to dash off to the centre and I'm just going to see what's available and play with a puppy or not. And I think that's amazing. I mean, you guys are open, you invite them and we can go, right?
Yes.
So we've made new friends, Christy.
I mean, but Julia is one of those, they sleep with a smile on their face because
absolutely.
they enjoy what they're doing. And they, I think the feedback that you get when a cat or a dog gets adopted, and you can just after a while, do you go and visit after a while just to check how they are doing?
We keep in contact and we get regular photos, and we also have a program where if you've adopted from us, they can come back for the rest of their lives for vaccinations on a yearly basis
Oh,
via
that's
us. So we
actually
get to see them
fantastic.
at least once a year.
Oh, and then they
Yeah.
recognize you, I'm sure.
Oh, yes. Well, not me, but
Oh, yeah, the helpers. So, Christine, just my final question always. If anyone wants to get I think, involved or, just want to reach out, where and how's the best way to get hold of you?
through the centre on 021 856 0597. Then ask for Julia. And we take it from there. Our needs are great, and the more helping hands we can get, the better.
And I think you also mentioned Facebook page. You've got a website and a Facebook page?
No, not a website. I kept getting hacked into porno sites. So.
Okay. Oh, okay. So what is the Facebook? Is it just Animal Welfare?
Helderberg. But if you type on our webpage, we've actually had Marlon here, will direct it straight to Facebook.
Okay, lovely.
And anything and everything is on that page. All the news, all the things that we're getting up to, the fundraising and so forth.
Well,
Yes.
that's fantastic. So anyone and everyone out there, rush over to the center, go and spread some love, and God bless Julia. I just wish you and the animals in the center the very best of fortunes.
Thank you, and thank you for letting me be. And I just want to also, while I'm here, thank the staff and the volunteers.
Of course.
Without them, I wouldn't be where I am.
There we go. Thank you, Christy.
Julia, go well. En ek sien vir jou weer volgende week.
Ja, volgende week praat ons met Andrei Willemse. Hy is die plaaslike regional direkteur van Business Network Initiative BNI. Business Network Organisation.
Cool. Ons gesels met hom volgende week. Dankie, Lindie.